Hi, welcome to Audio Tips from a Pro. I'm Neil Kesterson. I've been a professional audio engineer for 40 years and I've learned a thing or two. I'd like to pass on some of my knowledge to you so that your soundtracks can shine. Let's talk about controlling uncontrolled environments. Now, this sounds like a NASA space mission or military directive, but it's really about understanding how sound works so you can minimize problems when recording. I work most days in a custom-built recording studio, but often I have to record in noisy rooms, and I would bet half of you are forced to record in less than ideal spaces too. But this is the world we live and work in. When faced with recording in a challenging space, the first thing to do is to not panic. Assess the problems one by one, starting with the background noises that will pollute your recording. Walk around the space and identify the loudest external noise. This might be a nearby road, an adjacent office, a hallway, or other populated area. If it's in a public or workspace, you may not be able to ask everyone to be silent during each recording, but you may be able to knock some of it down by talking with someone in charge to have people be quiet, placing quiet signs around, or opting for a different time of day to record. I prefer organic ways of reducing noise before I try to solve issues using technical methods. The next thing to listen for is mechanical noise. It's often an HVAC system that wreaks the most havoc. Most people aren't even aware that a system is turning on and off throughout the day, but once you listen with a microphone, it sounds like you're standing on an airport runway. And speaking of airports, check to see if you're in a flight path. Locate any appliances and machinery that might ruin a take, like a refrigerator, copy machine, fish tank, etc. You'd be surprised how quickly low-level noises add up. Make a note to unplug them before recording and to plug them back in afterwards. Next, listen to the lighting. Many fluorescent and CFL bulbs are still used, especially in offices and schools. These not only emit a grinding audible buzz, they can also bleed into the power system, then into your recorder or mixer, even if it's not plugged in. This is due to RFI, or radio frequency interference. Even electrical outlets with wall warts or those transformer packs can inject RFI. If you're on a video shoot, check buzz from all those studio lights. Even LEDs can cause noise and RFI, mostly coming from the power supplies. And lastly, if you're inside, listen to the structure. Are you hearing people walk around? Are there doors slamming? Windows opening and closing? Plumbing sounds? Door beepers? A PA announcement? Background music? People on speakerphones? There are so many random sounds in a populated space that it can be maddening. Structural sounds like walking around and closing doors are almost impossible to mask out during recording. That's because wood, steel, and concrete are extremely efficient in transmitting sound. For instance, sound travels through air at about 770 miles per hour. But through wood and concrete, it blazes through at 7,500 miles per hour. Cast iron, 11,000 miles per hour. In a typical building, structural elements like floors and walls are not isolated from each other. Therefore, you will hear that angry man slam the door 3 stories up, or that clogger practicing next door. If you're recording outside, such as for video, many of these same sounds can occur, except they will be exponentially louder. Plus, there is a general ambience outside, like distant city noises, traffic, birds, and so on, even air movement. These issues can be reduced by positioning the subject and microphone away from the loudest problem noises. Microphone selection, like a shotgun or boom mic, can better isolate your subject from background sounds than by using a conventional mic. Once you've identified the potential noise problems, and keep in mind there will be more that you're not even aware of yet, move on to acoustic issues. We're trying to anticipate how the sound will behave before it hits the microphone. Look at the walls, floors, and the ceiling of the room you want to record in. Is there any soft covering like drapes or carpet? These can help soften echoes, though not tremendously. Furniture like sofas and beds help absorb echoes a little. If you're recording a singer or narrator, a walk-in closet lined with clothes is one of the best sound absorbing places outside of a recording studio that you'll ever find, though it can get very stuffy and hot after only a short time. I look at windows and doors. Are they facing an exterior noise source like a roadway or HVAC compressor? If so, try to choose an alternate location or make sure the subject is not near one. Close the blinds to create a softening effect on echoes. Leave a door slightly ajar to break up echoes if there is no noise leaking in. Okay, so now you've eliminated all exterior noises you can control and you've determined how echoey the room will be by observation. Before even plugging a microphone in, let's determine where the sound source will be and where the microphone will be. Remember, this is just a starting point, and the first position you choose will not always be the best. One of the first things I do is walk around the room and clap. You can reveal a lot of problems this way. A good solid clap has a fairly broad range of frequencies also found in the human voice. The mid-range and high frequencies like those in a clap are what bounce around a room with ease. Fortunately, they're also the easiest to tame. Now let's talk about how sound travels within a room. If we start with a perfectly square room, which is the worst scenario for recording, by the way, and make a sound in the dead center, it will bounce off 6 surfaces right back into the microphone. That's 4 walls, the ceiling, and the floor. That bouncing sound will hit the microphone 6 times nearly simultaneously, except by a fraction of a second after the initial sound source. However, the sound waves will have slowed down because they have lost energy bouncing off the walls, and they will be slightly lower in pitch. This millisecond delay times 6 and the lower frequency cause dissonance, the kind like playing 2 neighboring piano keys together. This will all happen again and again because the walls, floor, and ceiling are parallel to each other, bouncing the reflected sounds over and over again into the microphone. The closest analogy to this is a handball court, with the ball bouncing off the wall, creating echo after echo. You can reduce the echo by moving away from the center of the room, but not up against a wall. Usually about 2/3 of the way from any wall should work, but this will be trial and error once we put our headphones on. Another way to reduce echo is to turn the subject and microphone at a slight angle from any parallel surface like a wall. It doesn't have to be much, 10 degrees or so. Just make sure the subject and mic are not turned toward a corner where many troublesome echoes and harmonics can be amplified. Next, try to put dampening materials behind and in front of the subject. A simple blanket or rug hung vertically can do wonders for reflections. Some narrators and vocalists will actually sit on their bed with a comforter draped over their heads while performing to get that dry sound. Also, try to move upholstered chairs into corners to trap those dreaded bass buildups. By absorbing or deflecting direct sound from ever hitting a surface, you've conquered 75% of your echo problems. The rest, which is bass, cannot usually be controlled outside of a studio. When I record remotely for several days in one room, I usually bring sound blankets and foam acoustic panels along and build a temporary studio to control as much as I can. But remember, you'll never completely eliminate noise and echoes. Focus on the big fixes first, like cutting air conditioning and positioning the subject. The penultimate bit of control you have over your recording is your choice of microphone. I bring along several types, especially when it's an unknown location I'm walking into. If you have several to choose from, bring a large and small diaphragm condenser, a medium shotgun or boom, and a large and small diaphragm dynamic. If I'd pick only 2, it would be a large diaphragm condenser and a large diaphragm dynamic. Condensers are excellent for detail, but they are susceptible to external noise and echoes. Even in a well-built studio, they can be too live and airy sometimes. Dynamic mics are great for rejecting noise and echoes, but don't have the detail. If you're recording vocals, I would choose a large diaphragm dynamic mic like the Shure SM7, Sennheiser MD421, or the Electro Voice RE20. These are tailored to voice recordings and require the talent to be close to the mic, therefore reducing external sounds. Michael Jackson's favorite was the Shure SM7, and you've probably heard it every day because it's a favorite of radio stations and podcasters. If you choose a condenser, you will have to be ultra picky on placement so that background noise and echo is reduced. Plus, the mic may pop from plosives like P's and F's if it is too close, further complicating things. A shotgun boom is a compromise choice. On one hand, the better built ones have excellent sound tailored to the human voice. They also reject side noise very well. On the other hand, the talent must work very closely to the mic for it to reject echo. If the talent isn't used to working that close and holding perfectly still during the recording, then the signal will drop off dramatically, ruining the take. Shotguns can also sound less rich and more edgy, especially when used close up. The last bit of control you can have over inferior remote sound is software. 5 years ago, I would have never have recommended relying on post-production software to remove noise and echo, but today's apps have made significant strides. I've been able to almost completely eliminate echo from lively recordings. Noise reduction has been excellent for about 10 years now, but recent AI and machine learning algorithms have upped the ante. You still have to be careful to not apply too much reduction because it would start to sound lifeless and robotic. You must employ all the recording methods I've described earlier to have the most success with software noise removal. You must also be well trained on your software before you can determine which unwanted sounds can and cannot be fixed later while on location recording. Hoping it will get rid of a problem is not good engineering. Knowing it can is. I often get called out to record narrators in offices, schools, and homes. I still treat each one as if noise reduction software doesn't exist. By the way, it wasn't around when I started in this business. One of the worst situations I've had to record in was at a noisy restaurant. There was a live radio show going on with a PA system and all, and I had to record a voiceover. We were able to move to an adjacent dining area with a portable wall in between us and the crowded restaurant. That was fix number 1. Fix number 2 was positioning the mic and talent to reduce the chatter. Fix number 3 was a carpeted floor. Fix number 4 was choosing a dynamic mic. Fix number 5 was using denoising software. Now, it didn't sound like my studio, but with a music backing track, the average person would not have known just how noisy the space originally was. I'll end this with saying that you will always have more control over your sound than you know. Slow down and think your way through the problems and solutions, concentrating on the big ones first. Be ready to accept that you can't fix all the problems, but knowing what you can control will let you choose your compromises wisely. Also consider turning your, quote, problems into assets. For instance, a reflective room may actually add to the character of a recording. Listen to the album Buena Vista Social Club or Minahan Street Band's Make the Road by Walking. These two masterpieces lean into the open room sound, evoking musical memories from classic mid-century recordings before a dry, lifeless studio sound took over in the 1970s. Thanks for watching. Have a question or want to suggest a topic? Email me at info@dxaudio.com. I'm the owner of Dynamics Productions in Lexington, Kentucky. Visit my studio website at dxaudio.com. I wrote a book called Push the Right Buttons, a practical guide to becoming and succeeding as an audio engineer and producer. Get a copy or listen to the audiobook at dxaudio.com/book or at most online retailers like Amazon, Audible, Apple Books, Barnes& Noble, Spark Ngram, and Google Play.